13 hidden emotions that finally have a name. Have you ever experienced a feeling so specific, so nuanced, that you struggled to put it into words? You knew exactly what you were feeling, but the English language seemed inadequate to capture the precise emotional landscape of your inner experience. You're not alone. Human emotions are far more complex and varied than our vocabulary typically allows us to express. While basic emotions like happiness, sadness, anger, and fear get most of the attention in psychology and everyday conversation, there exists a vast spectrum of subtle, complex emotional states that shape our daily lives in profound ways. These emotions have always existed in human experience, but many have remained unnamed in English, leaving us feeling emotionally inarticulate when we encounter them. Fortunately, languages around the world have developed words for these precise emotional states, and psychologists have begun identifying and naming previously unrecognized feelings. Having names for these emotions doesn't just satisfy linguistic curiosity. Research shows that being able to precisely identify and label our emotional states leads to better emotional regulation, improved mental health, and deeper self-understanding. This phenomenon is called emotional granularity, the ability to make fine distinctions between similar emotions. People with higher emotional granularity tend to be more resilient, have better relationships, and experience less anxiety and depression. By expanding your emotional vocabulary, you're literally improving your ability to navigate the complex landscape of human feeling. Here are 13 hidden emotions that finally have names, along with what they mean and why recognizing them in yourself can be transformative. 1. Sonder. Definition: the profound realization that every random passerby lives a life as vivid and complex as your own, populated with their own ambitions, friends, routines, worries, and inherited craziness. An epic story that continues invisibly around you like an anthill sprawling deep underground. Sonder is that overwhelming moment when you're sitting in a coffee shop, airport, or busy street and suddenly become intensely aware that every single person around you has an entire universe of experience, relationships, dreams, and struggles that you know nothing about. Each person you see has loved deeply, lost something precious, celebrated private victories, and carried secret burdens. This emotion often strikes when we're traveling or in crowded public spaces. You might watch someone reading a book on the subway and suddenly realize they have a childhood full of memories, parents who worried about them, friends who called them for advice, and a bedroom somewhere that reflects their personality in ways you'll never know. Why it matters. Recognizing Sonder can be both humbling and connecting. It reminds us that our problems, while significant to us, are part of a vast tapestry of human experience. This perspective can reduce self-centeredness and increase empathy. When you're struggling with feeling isolated or convinced that no one understands your experience, Sonder reminds you that everyone around you is navigating their own complex emotional landscape. The word Sonder was coined by John Koenig for his project, The Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows, but the feeling it describes is universal and profound. 2. Chrysalism. Definition: the amniotic tranquility of being indoors during a thunderstorm, listening to waves of rain pattering against the roof like an argument upstairs, whose muffled words are unintelligible, but whose crackling release of built-up tension you understand perfectly. Chrysalism captures that specific sense of cozy safety and introspective calm that comes from being sheltered inside, while nature displays its power outside. It's the feeling of being wrapped in a protective cocoon while the world rages beyond your walls, simultaneously aware of chaos and completely insulated from it. This emotion often comes with a sense of gratitude for shelter, an appreciation for the contrast between inner peace and outer turbulence, and sometimes a melancholic pleasure in the temporary suspension of normal life that storms create. Why it matters. Chrysalism represents our deep human need for both security and stimulation. We crave the safety of shelter, but we also need the reminder of forces larger than ourselves. This emotion helps us understand why many people find storms oddly comforting rather than purely frightening. They provide perspective and create space for reflection. Recognizing chrysalism can help you appreciate these moments of natural pause in your life and understand why you might feel particularly contemplative or creative during storms. 3. Vemodalen. Definition. The frustration of photographing something amazing when thousands of identical photos already exist. The same sunset, the same waterfall, the same curve of beach, which can turn a unique experience into something hollow. In our social media age, Vemodalen has become increasingly common. You're standing before something breathtakingly beautiful, but instead of pure appreciation, you feel a strange deflation knowing that millions of people have stood in this same spot, taken this same photo, and posted it online with similar captions about being blessed or grateful. This emotion reflects the tension between personal experience and collective documentation. Your sunset is meaningful to you, but it's also generic in the grand scheme of Instagram posts. The uniqueness of your experience feels diminished by its commonality. Why it matters. Vemodalen reveals something important about how documentation affects experience. When we're constantly thinking about how to capture and share moments, we may actually diminish our ability to fully inhabit them. Recognizing this emotion can help you make conscious choices about when to document experiences and when to simply be present for them. It also highlights the difference between personal meaning and universal significance. Your sunset may not be unique globally, but it's still your moment, your experience, and your connection to beauty. 4. Liberosis. Definition. The desire to care less about things, to loosen your grip on your life, to stop glancing behind you every few steps, afraid that someone will snatch it from you before you reach the end zone, which is the basic felt instinct that something is already there waiting for you. Liberosis is that weary feeling of being tired of caring so much about everything. It's the emotional exhaustion that comes from constant vigilance, endless worry, and the heavy responsibility of caring deeply about your life, relationships, and future. This isn't depression or apathy. It's specifically the wish that you could turn down the volume on your emotional investment in outcomes. You don't want to stop caring entirely. You want to care with less anxiety, less attachment to specific results, less fear of loss. Why it matters. Liberosis often signals that you're carrying too much emotional weight or trying to control too many outcomes. It's your psyche's way of saying you need to practice letting go. This emotion can be a valuable signal that it's time to examine what you're holding on to too tightly and why. Recognizing liberosis can be the first step toward developing healthier emotional boundaries and learning to care deeply while holding outcomes lightly. 5. Monocopsis. Definition. The subtle but persistent feeling of being out of place, as if you don't belong in your surroundings, the feeling that everyone else got some social manual that you never received. Monocopsis is more specific than general social anxiety. It's the particular feeling that everyone around you seems to understand social rules, cultural norms, or group dynamics that remain mysterious to you. You might be in a perfectly normal situation, a work meeting, dinner party, or casual conversation, but feel like you're performing a role based on incomplete information. This emotion often involves watching others interact with apparent ease and understanding while you feel like you're translating everything through a foreign language dictionary. It's a sense of being slightly offbeat with the rhythm of social life around you. Why it matters. Monocopsis is incredibly common, especially among highly sensitive people, introverts, or those who think differently from the mainstream. Recognizing this feeling can be validating. It reminds you that the problem isn't necessarily that you're defective, but that you may simply process social information differently. Understanding monocopsis can also help you seek out environments and people where you feel more naturally aligned, rather than constantly trying to fit into spaces that don't suit your natural temperament. 6. Annulment. Definition. The bittersweetness of having arrived at the future, seeing how things turned out, but not being able to tell your past self. Annulment occurs when you reach a point in life you once desperately wanted to achieve or feared you never would: graduating college, finding love, starting a family, reaching a career goal, and you feel a complex mix of satisfaction and melancholy. You're happy to be where you are, but there's a poignant awareness of all the worry and uncertainty your past self experienced unnecessarily. This emotion often comes with the wish that you could travel back and reassure your younger self that things would work out, that the struggles were temporary, that the fears were unfounded. There's also sometimes a recognition that the journey was necessary, that your past self needed to experience the uncertainty to fully appreciate the resolution. Why it matters. Annulment can provide perspective on current struggles. When you're in the middle of difficulty or uncertainty, remembering this emotion can remind you that future you might look back on this period with compassion and understanding. It can also help you appreciate how far you've come and recognize patterns in your life where things have worked out despite your fears. 7. Rubetosis. Definition. The unsettling awareness of your own heartbeat, whose secret language you can't understand, its rhythm seemingly insisting that you're still here, still here, still here. Rubetosis typically occurs in quiet moments when you suddenly become conscious of your heartbeat. Rather than being comforting, this awareness feels strange and somewhat alienating. Your heart is keeping you alive with mechanical persistence, but its steady rhythm can feel oddly disconnected from your conscious experience. This emotion often arises during periods of existential reflection, anxiety, or when you're lying in bed unable to sleep. The heartbeat becomes a reminder of your mortality and the autonomous processes keeping you alive without your conscious control. Why it matters. Rubetosis can be an entry point into deeper awareness of your physical existence and mortality. While initially unsettling, this emotion can lead to greater appreciation for the miraculous nature of being alive. It can also signal times when you might be disconnected from your body or experiencing anxiety about health or mortality. Recognizing rubetosis can help you understand when you're having an existential moment versus a medical concern. And it can be a reminder to reconnect with your physical body through breathing, movement, or mindful awareness. 8. Oculism. Definition. The awareness of the smallness of your perspective, by which you couldn't possibly draw any meaningful conclusions at all about the world or the past or the complexities of culture, because although your life is an epic and unrepeatable anecdote, it still only has a sample size of one. Oculism is the humbling recognition that your personal experience, no matter how rich and meaningful to you, represents an infinitesimally small sample of human experience. You might have strong opinions about relationships based on your dating history, definitive views about success based on your career path, or firm beliefs about human nature based on the people you've known. But oculism reminds you that your perspective is necessarily limited. This emotion often strikes when you encounter perspectives radically different from your own, travel to unfamiliar places, or learn about experiences completely outside your own life context. Why it matters. Oculism can be profoundly liberating. It can free you from the burden of having to have opinions about everything and remind you that curiosity is often more valuable than certainty. This emotion can increase intellectual humility and openness to learning from others. It can also reduce the pressure you might feel to figure everything out based on your limited experience and encourage you to seek diverse perspectives before drawing conclusions. 9. Ellipsism. Definition: a sadness that you'll never be able to know how history turns out, that you'll never get to see humanity after it grows up, to observe what the human race might evolve into, what empires will rise and fall, what incredible technologies might be developed, or what discoveries will be made about the universe. Ellipsism is the melancholy awareness of your limited lifespan in the context of human history. You'll experience only a tiny slice of human civilization and will never know how the grand human story unfolds over centuries and millennia. This emotion often emerges when contemplating technological progress, social change, or scientific discoveries. You might wonder what the world will look like in 100, 500, or 1,000 years, and feel genuinely sad that you'll never witness these future developments. Why it matters. Ellipsism reflects our deep curiosity about human potential and our connection to the broader human story. While it can feel melancholic, this emotion can also inspire you to contribute something meaningful to the ongoing human narrative, knowing that you're part of a larger story that will continue after you're gone. It can also help you appreciate the particular moment in history you do get to witness and participate in. 10. Anecdote. Definition: a conversation in which everyone is talking but nobody is listening, simply overlaying disconnected words like a game of Scrabble, with each player borrowing bits of other anecdotes as a springboard for their own story. Anecdote captures those frustrating social interactions where genuine communication breaks down into a series of competing monologues. Everyone is waiting for their turn to speak rather than actually engaging with what others are saying. Stories become vehicles for self-expression rather than connection. This emotion involves recognizing the superficial nature of such exchanges and feeling somewhat hollow or unsatisfied by them, even if they're socially pleasant on the surface. Why it matters. Recognizing anecdote can help you identify when conversations are lacking genuine connection and inspire you to practice deeper listening. It can also help you understand why some social interactions leave you feeling drained rather than energized. This awareness can motivate you to seek out or create more meaningful conversational exchanges and help you recognize the difference between social performance and authentic communication. 11. Début. Definition: the awareness that this will become a memory, the feeling that you're already experiencing nostalgia for a moment, even while it's still happening. This VU occurs when you're in the middle of a particularly meaningful moment and suddenly become aware that you're creating a memory you'll cherish later. You might be at a family gathering, on a trip with friends, or sharing an intimate moment with someone you love, and you suddenly step outside the experience to observe yourself having it. This emotion combines present moment awareness with future nostalgia, creating a bittersweet recognition of time's passage even as beautiful moments unfold. Why it matters. This VU can enhance your appreciation of meaningful moments by making you more conscious of their significance. However, it can also create a slight distance from pure experience. Recognizing this emotion can help you balance awareness of a moment's significance with full presence within it. This emotion also reveals our complex relationship with time and memory, how we experience moments both as immediate reality and future recollections. 12. Juska. Definition: a hypothetical conversation that you compulsively play out in your head, a crisp analysis, a cathartic dialogue, a devastating comeback. which serves as a kind of psychological batting practice for conversations that will probably never happen. Juska is those elaborate mental rehearsals of conversations you might have with your boss about a raise, arguments you might make to someone who wronged you, or explanations you might give for your life choices. These mental conversations are often more articulate and satisfying than real interactions because you control both sides of the dialogue. This emotion often occurs when you feel unheard, misunderstood, or when you wish you had responded differently to a past interaction. Why it matters. Juska reveals your desire to be understood and your need to process complex feelings about relationships and situations. While these mental conversations can provide emotional release and help you clarify your thoughts, excessive Juska might indicate that you need to find ways to express yourself more directly in real life. Recognizing this pattern can help you understand what you need to communicate and inspire you to have actual conversations rather than just mental ones. 13. Velicor. Definition. The strange wistfulness of used bookstores, which are somehow infused with the passage of time. Filled with thousands of old books you'll never have time to read, each of which is itself locked in its own era, bound and dated and papered over like an old room the author abandoned years ago, a hidden annex littered with thoughts left just as they were on the day they were captured. Velicor captures the unique emotional atmosphere of spaces filled with abandoned or forgotten human creations. It's the melancholy awareness of all the thoughts, dreams, and efforts that have been preserved in physical form but may never be encountered again. This emotion often extends beyond bookstores to antique shops, old libraries, museums, or any space where human creativity from past eras accumulates. Why it matters. Velicor reflects our connection to human creativity and the passage of time. It can inspire appreciation for the creative works of others and recognition of your own mortality and creative responsibility. What are you creating that might outlast you? What wisdom or beauty are you contributing to the accumulated human legacy? This emotion can also provide perspective on the temporary nature of trends and the enduring value of thoughtful, creative work. The power of emotional granularity. Understanding and naming these subtle emotions isn't just an intellectual exercise. It's a practical tool for emotional intelligence and psychological well-being. When you can precisely identify what you're feeling, you gain several important advantages. Reduced emotional overwhelm. Complex feelings become more manageable when you can break them down into specific, nameable components. Instead of feeling generally bad or weird, you can identify the specific type of emotional experience you're having. Improved communication. Having names for subtle emotions allows you to communicate your inner experience more accurately to others, leading to better understanding and connection in relationships. Enhanced self-awareness. Recognizing these emotions helps you understand your own patterns, triggers, and needs more clearly. Better emotional regulation. Research shows that people who can make fine distinctions between emotions are better at managing their emotional responses and recovering from negative emotional states. Increased empathy. Understanding the full spectrum of human emotional experience makes you more empathetic to others who might be experiencing emotions that don't fit into basic categories. The next time you experience one of these subtle, complex emotions, take a moment to acknowledge it specifically. Notice how having a name for the feeling changes your relationship to it. You might find that what once felt confusing or isolating becomes more understandable and, often, more beautiful in its specificity. Human emotional experience is far richer and more nuanced than our everyday vocabulary typically allows us to express. By expanding your emotional vocabulary and developing greater emotional granularity, You're not just improving your ability to understand yourself. You're enhancing your capacity to fully experience the complex beauty of being human. These 13 emotions represent just a small sample of the vast spectrum of human feeling that exists beyond our basic emotional categories. As we continue to explore and name the subtleties of emotional experience, we develop greater appreciation for the remarkable complexity and richness of the human psyche. The goal isn't to become obsessed with categorizing every feeling, but to develop a more sophisticated understanding of your emotional life, one that honors the full spectrum of human experience and helps you navigate it with greater awareness, compassion, and skill.